Well, of course, as a South Carolina Baptist, I've known about Connie Maxwell Children's Home all my life. Matter of fact, my home church today brings each child on all of our campuses, at least one present, but usually about 3. And then they even bring cottage presents as well, so that makes me feel really good about that. Coming here and rediscovering Connie Maxwell, I'd been a youth minister, a pastor, but God and I both knew that I really missed kids because I was in the pastorate before coming here, and the door just opened up. I've been here I'm right into my 24th year now, and I absolutely love it. I've been on mission trips with our kids. I've taken them on activities. You know, I announced their basketball games. I used to coach basketball as well, and it's just a joy to be a part of their lives. And anything my wife and I and son can do, we will do. My involvement in the ministry really begins with kids. I absolutely love them. One of my goals as Director of Communications here is when I take pictures of them, is I want to bring out the best in them. When I do magazine articles and so forth, it's all positive because I wanted to know our folks to know that God is making a difference in their lives, and that means a lot to me. My real joy now is I actually have kids coming up and getting in pictures that I take and ask me, is that going to be in the magazine or the calendar? When, you know, when I first got here and started in the communications, I actually started in development, but when I first got here, I really wanted to let them know that they have a life ahead of them. And because I haven't experienced a background similar to theirs. And I also wanted them to know that God's good and He can make a difference in their lives because He certainly has made a difference in mine. I take my pictures and I do my articles, it's all positive. And that's one of the joys now that the kids have with what I do, is that they know that they're going to be spotlighted, that they're going to be highlighted, that they're going to come across as being loved and cared for, and that's what makes a difference for me in my life to be a part of this ministry. The vision really started with the Maxwell family back in 1892, you know, when South Carolina Baptist began this ministry with them. They had lost their only child to scarlet fever, and instead of being resentful and angry, they looked at God and said, thank you for allowing us to have a child for as long as we have and to enjoy. And so they wanted to take care of other children. So that's really where the vision began. They wanted to meet the needs of children where they were and when they were. Back then, of course, it was an orphanage, and a lot of kids, and especially in our society, had parents passing away, and so a lot of them were true orphans. Or there might have been situations where the fathers passed away or the mothers passed away, and the other couldn't take care of that child. You know, that's where that ministry began. And that's almost true for some of our children today, as well as being true orphans or at least having one parent deceased. But a lot of our kids are here today because they've been abused, abandoned, or neglected, and that's a shame. Matter of fact, when I look through my camera lens, taking their pictures, and I just wonder how in the world can anybody ever hurt you, as wonderful a person as you are, and they are. Every kid is full of energy, every kid here is full of potential and possibility, and Connie Maxwell's here to help them expose that, to reach out and become a family themselves. And that's the joy I have, having been here 24 years now. I have a lot of kids who are Facebook friends, and now they have children. And what a blessing it is to see them raise their children and love them and be excited that they have a child. The gospel's being shared on a daily basis here. As a matter of fact, when I speak in churches, I always tell them, if you're down, if you're wondering where God is in your life, I'll let them know if you need to be rejuvenated, if you need to refine your faith, come to Connie Maxwell, because there's a miracle taking place every day. Probably the worst experience I ever heard about from a child. I was coaching basketball, and I said, everybody get on the free throw line. You know, it's time to take some warm-up shots. And a young lady came over to me and said, what's the free throw line? And I found out as she had just arrived as a 6th grader, had been used by her mother to be a prostitute, to raise money for the family, mostly for the mother's drugs and so forth. And I just can't imagine, and just the sweetest kid, and I know her today, we're friends, and she's doing quite well and has children. As a matter of fact, she's told me the story that when her toddler, they would be at Walmart or whatever, he would turn around behind her and look to the people behind them and say, do you know who Jesus is? I mean, that's how she was raising her child. And yeah, the gospel's being shared here every day, not only for our children, but for the staff and for anybody who does any volunteer work on our campus. One of the greatest disciples to ever come out of here was Thelma Moorhead. Matter of fact, we even have a cottage named after her here on campus with another missionary that came out of Connie, Maxwell. We've had several through the years. Matter of fact, one of the joys I've had has been on mission trips with our students. I tell you what, I've been a youth minister and I've been on a lot of mission trips, but I tell you what, if you ever want to go on a mission trip, go with these kids. Because a lot of places that you go to, that's where they came from. We've been in apartment complexes where there are police substations outside those apartment complexes. Or one that we went to where the week before there had been a shooting at that apartment. And the parents, as they came to watch us work with their children at this particular place in Virginia, marveled at the fact that there were children from a children's home coming and doing missions work. But Thelma Moorhead left Connie Maxwell right after World War II was complete. She went to Japan and had an incredible ministry there with her husband for, I think, around 41 years. And that's just amazing that they, as Americans, went to Japan after what had taken place through World War II. That's the kind of disciples that can come out of Connie Maxwell. Connie Maxwell's not just in Greenwood, but this is a beautiful campus here. We have several hundred acres, including a farm, a ropes course, a riding and walking trails for the kids. We have a full-time recreation program as well. We have tutors that help our children. A lot of these kids come to us, they've never had parents to say, you need to go to bed, or it's time for supper, and things like that, because see, meals make a difference, as far as a child's growing up. So we prepare meals for them every day, and they get fed well. Cottage parents work with them as with their homework and so forth as well. But we also have a tutoring program on this campus in Greenwood, and our other kids on the other campuses as well. But we have a campus for girls in Malden, South Carolina. That's the Marie Yance home. We have a campus in Chesterfield. That's an emergency shelter. As a matter of fact, several years ago, the local community said, we have no place to place our children when we take them immediately out of the home in emergency care. And so could you build a facility? And on faith, and it truly was on faith, Connie Maxwell built that facility. And God really worked a miracle in the sense that we were in Chesterfield, and one of our graduates, who when he left Connie Maxwell, joined the U.S. Marines. Well, the year though was 1941. He was assigned to Hawaii, and he was on board the USS Nevada, just behind Arizona at Pearl Harbor. And so he helped to fund that cottage, to construct it. And that's a several $100,000 job to do. And then the place that we found, the location, was beside a South Carolina Baptist church. And believe it or not, that's the church that his original family worshiped in. And so they said, well, we'll help pay for the land. And then the community surrounded that. And so God's hand was in that something fierce. Then we have a home in Florence, South Carolina for girls, and a boys' home down in Orangeburg, South Carolina that takes care of 16 children there. So Connie Maxwell's really reached out across South Carolina to minister to all kinds of folks. One of the things that has really hit our state recently that we've discovered, 53,000 children are in South Carolina being raised by their grandparents. And we've really reached out to them as well to do that. So we've had a grandparent initiative, and they're very supportive of those children, but they financially or health-wise couldn't take care of them anymore, so they've placed them to our care. But they stay in touch, and they come visit, and they can go home and visit as well, like all our kids can do. So it's a very valuable ministry, reaching out and taking care of families. Connie Maxwell needs the support of the community. There's no doubt about it. 20% of our budget needs come from direct gifts from churches or from the South Carolina Baptist Convention, so we have to raise the other 80%. And a lot of people have blessed us through their estate planning, and that has given us an endowment over the years that we've established. And if it wasn't for that endowment, we would be closing cottages and campuses today. That meets about 40% of our needs, but those gifts mean a great deal to us. So when somebody includes us in their estate planning, it means a great deal to us. And then there's that individual giving as well, that on the daily basis, It's amazing, and you get these sweetest letters from folks saying, you know, I never had children myself, so I really want to support your children there. And they become a part of their lives too. We reach out in our ministry to them by way of their caring for us, and that's a real joy to see as people respond to us. And then there's the volunteers. Gracious, I don't know what we would do without volunteers on our campus. And the food supplies that they give us, and the school supplies. I've spoken in churches throughout South Carolina that every year make sure that we have all the school supplies that we need. Or if we have a student that's wanting to be in the band or wanting to play football or soccer or basketball, they'll help with those expenses and the school requirements as far as funding is concerned. It's vital that we have a community support that we do. I do what I do here because of the grace of God. I have a similar background to what our kids have been through. And so I know in the different churches that I've served in as a youth minister and as a pastor, God was teaching me, hopefully using me too, and I feel like He did, to meet the needs of those kids in those moments and those parishioners. But eventually He brought me here. And I've been here, we're in my 24th year, and it's a blessing to help them feel better about who they are. One of the sweetest notes I've ever received from a kid, young lady who was fairly overweight, never felt like she was pretty. I would take her pictures. And she wrote me one day, "Thank you for always making us feel beautiful. An absolute joy to be a part of it." It is. And to help them feel good about who they are and what they do and the lives that they can have. And that there's a God of hope and possibilities. I've gotten close to a lot of our kids through the years. All of them matter to me. This past summer I actually got to perform the wedding of a young man that I watched grow up from the age of 8. Just do so well, and actually got a full scholarship to play football at Furman University. And I always looked at his life as having potential. He said I could always had a pity party and just died in that, but instead he decided to live his life. What a joy it is to see folks like that grow up. That's why I'm here. If I could say anything that God would have put on my heart to share with you today, children don't have that big a voice. If you look back to biblical times and where they stood, it was nice to see Jesus come into their life, would pull a child out of a crowd and say, you got to be like one of these. I would ask people to help us give children a voice. Our greatest resource is not our petroleum or whatever else. It's our children and what they have to offer. That would be it.
If you know of a ministry that we need to know about, please give us a call, 888-641-8606, or take a look at our website, revelationstv.org.